I think the problem with teenage girls getting pregnant now is they have no real way of, sustaining the family. Let's say that the boyfriend stays in the picture. That kid's not going to be able to go out and get a job along with her to make enough money to raise the family.
That's why, but I don't want my words to be misinterpreted, as I know they will, because Matt's saying teenage girls should get pregnant. No. What I'm saying is that.
Oh, what? What? Did he just say he doesn't think teenage girls should get pregnant? I didn't even know he said this later on. I didn't even know he said this. He literally says it. He literally says it. I don't like Matt Walsh. I'm not a fan of Matt Walsh. I don't want him to do well, and I'm not trying to help him in any way. If anything, I am trying to help people like Majority Report, TYT, Vaush, Media Matters, trying to help them learn how to be honest. Now, my values will normally align with theirs more often than not. And I think that if they could actually criticize somebody without lying, they would be better off for it. Now, they may not have as much content, and that's probably the problem, is if I can't make up lies to criticize somebody, I may run out of things to criticize, and it's a problem. It's probably got to be really hard for shows like Majority Report and TYT, who go over so many problems. But I'm going to show you that, they are making up lies so that they have some content. They're making up things to criticize somebody. Matt Walsh, piece of crap. His "What is a Woman" propaganda is insanely harmful. But if we are going to say, hey, now we'll just put out propaganda on him to make him look bad, we're no better than him. We are him, and all of the criticisms of him that we have will fall right back on us. We should just look into a mirror every time we criticize him, because we're the same as him. I don't want to be the same as him. I want to criticize the right and the left the same, and I want to hold the same standards for everybody. And so that's why we're going to go over this Matt Walsh stuff, and hopefully we're going to get to the bottom of this. I have no clue what we're going to find. I'm super interested. Wonder if I'm right. Okay, so yeah. All right. Here, let's see what this is.
It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is the Matt Walsh stuff. Really? What I want to do is let's just hear what he says, and then let's figure it out. Okay, so because there's a lot of clips, and this is from Media Matters. They're the ones who put it out. They're the ones who unearthed all of this information. So we're gonna start with Media Matters stuff, but I want to hear this first, and then we'll try to figure out what we think he said, and then we'll go over other people covering it and hear what they thought he said.
The peak, ever since they started keeping records of these things, which they only started doing recently, like in the 20th century, but ever since they started keeping records, in 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957.
So right now he says 1957 was the peak for female pregnancy.
So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous.
He's saying it's a ridiculous thing to act like it's new. It's not new. It's not even we're not even at the worst of it. It's been happening for a long time.
Always been that way. Even biologically, and this is me just stating. I'm going to start by just stating facts.
So, if you look at this, he says, I'm just stating facts. That's where they ended, was him saying, I'm just stating facts, right? Well, if you look on here, it says Matt Walsh advocates for impregnation of 16-year-old girls. Where was that? Where was that? Where did he advocate? This is a 40-second clip. We're going to listen to it again, because it even says right here, unearthed Matt Walsh rant advocating for the impregnation of 16-year-old girls because it's when they are technically at their most fertile. He claims it's not a teen pregnancy problem, but a non-marriage problem. I'm trying my best. I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna stay calm. That's okay. We're gonna just listen to it again and hear what he says, okay?
It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. The peak, ever since they started keeping records of these things, which they only started doing recently, like in the 20th century, but ever since they started keeping records, in 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957. So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way. Even biologically, and this is me just stating, I'm going to start by just stating facts.
So yeah, he says he's just stating facts. He's not advocating for anything. If we, you guys watch this show enough, so you know the difference between a descriptive claim and a prescriptive claim. One is where you're just stating what is, and then the prescriptive is where you're stating what ought to be, okay? So when they say he's advocating for something, that would be a prescriptive claim. That's you stating what ought to be. But he straight up says right there, he's just stating facts. That makes it a descriptive claim, not prescriptive. He is describing the world around him. If I say that rock is hard, I'm not saying that rock ought to be hard. I'm not saying it should be hard. I'm not advocating for the rock to be hard. I'm not saying, man, I really want that rock to be hard. I'm just saying the rock is freaking hard. It's just the way it is. I'm just telling you what is true. I'm just stating facts, right? There's nothing in here with any sort of advocacy. The advocacy just isn't there. Nobody's advocating for anything in this video. And can anybody disagree? Can please somebody tell me, like, no, Tom, you're wrong. Please listen, Tom. Here's where the advocacy is. Can somebody tell me, anybody, where that advocacy is? I don't like Matt Walsh, so I don't want it to sound like I'm like, this is what I hate, is that I'm constantly having to defend people that I don't like because everybody else is so bonkers. They're so dumb. They're so bad faith that they are willing to just make stuff up. In the original clip, the arguably prescriptive claim is at the end of it. I don't know why he didn't let the whole thing play. All right, we'll let it play. See if he gets back.
He's going to start off by just stating facts, you guys. 1957, there was tons of teenage pregnancies. Who knows why? We could maybe go into that if we look deeper, or the way that maybe teenagers were married off. Maybe there was an influx of this whole thing. Maybe they thought they had to rebuild that family structure. Sound familiar? We have to replenish our systems with the right kind of people. It's just speculation. Either way it goes, he had more facts that he laid out during this discussion. And I guess, I don't know if it was a monologue who he was talking to, but there's more that Walsh had to say. Let's go.
So fact number one, it's not a new phenomenon. Fact number two, in fact, it's a phenomenon that was more common earlier in history, and for the first 6,000 to 10,000 years of human existence, it was a normal thing. Fact three, girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological.
This is true. Okay? This is true. That like, obviously, we all know this. We've talked about before that, like, technically, men are just probably wired to find 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old women attractive, like, or most attractive. And women are wired to find men in their like 30s most attractive, because that's when they can get the most utility from a man. He's normally going to be, bigger and stronger and more capable of protection and whatever else. Like the things that we are like, we have to think of like, we're freaking primal animals. Like we're wired for something, right? Like the things that we do, the things that we like, this all comes from something else, right? The fact that we like TVs and that we're so like, we all love entertainment for some reason, that it's not because our DNA made it to where we would want to watch TV. TV didn't exist when we were wired this way. It's something else, primal, that actually just happens to coincide with a television and drama and storytelling and entertainment and that sort of crap. So We have to, like, everything he's saying so far is just facts. Hashtag facts.
That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing.
He's just stating facts. That's all he's doing, okay? He is not capping right now, okay? You are not being capped. He has not capped anybody, okay? There is no cap here. There is not any cap whatsoever right now.
But what happened recently, and this is the fourth fact, recently in the last 30 years or so, we decided that that's way too young to start a family. Why?
And yes, and we've talked about this on the show as well. The main reason, when we talk about like whether or not you can consent, normally those things are for like much younger. We say that 16, 17, 18-year-olds can consent. They just need to consent to other people around their same age. Even like in the United States, we don't have like a federal age of consent, so it's state by state. In a lot of states, I think it's most states even, 16-year-olds are able to consent to some degree. Normally it's within like a 2-year age difference, something like that, but legally, socially, I on average, most people lose their virginity around 16. So it's just a social norm. It's legal. It's like that. It just is what it is. And again, just stating facts, no prescription here. I'm not saying this is how it should be or how it ought to be or anything like that. We're just stating hashtag facts.
And because the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the...
So a second ago, he said... Here, let's play it again.
Last 30 years or so, we decided that that's way too young to start a family.
Over the last 30 years or so, we decided that's way too young to start a family. Why did we decide that? Because of school, pretty much. We want you to focus on school and finish that first. Now, can you like drop out of school at 16? Yes, of course. Can you be emancipated at 16? Yes, of course. Can you, can you have a job and all of these other things? Yes, of course you can. But like, again, everything he's saying is correct. Society has made it to where 16-year-olds can't get pregnant anymore. It's not a biological factor that 16-year-olds just can't get pregnant or that 16-year-olds just can't consent. It's inconvenient for society. And even the idea of consent is a social construct that we have built to protect society, right? It is best for society if we have this idea of consent. What's up, Dan Zammit? And so that's why we have it. Everything he's saying is just 100% correct so far. He is still just stating facts.
Why? And because the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids because he's a...
It's not problematic unless you're unmarried. Obviously, Christian, they believe sex is fine as long as you're married. Like, there should never be sex out of wedlock. You should never have kids or try to start a family without two parents. Like, obviously, these are like normal takes that you would expect from somebody like Matt Walsh.
Howard.
That's the only problem with teenage pregnancy. That's the only problem with marrying off people. That's the only problem with...
So when he says that's the only problem, he's talking about like morality, like morally speaking. Yeah, obviously, because the other examples that he gave were moral normative statements. So if he's saying the only problem with it is if it's out of wedlock, that just... of course, that's the only problem he would have with it. Now, everybody hears, oh, he's talking about like a 40-year-old man. Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Why would you just assume that's what he's talking about? Why? Why? There's no context in there to make you think he's talking about grown men. 16-year-olds getting married isn't good either, though. Well, he didn't say that 16-year-olds should be getting married.
With making sure we need a man to take care of this girl, by the way, that she's supposed to be taken care of. There's lots of things we used to do that was messed up back in the day. But again, this goes back to this whole hearkening back to the golden years, the good old days, when we used to do disgusting things to people. Do they not?
He said the problem is that they aren't married. Right. He said, well, with pregnancy, with teen pregnancy. So he's saying if teens are going to get pregnant, obviously they should do it. They should be married already. But they don't believe that just about teens. They believe this about everybody. Everybody. A 40-year-old woman should not have a child out of wedlock. They don't. This is not a standard that they just hold for 16-year-olds, okay? This is a standard that they hold for everybody. So again, to act like, oh, well, he's just talking about 16-year-olds here. He's obviously not. This is just a standard. The standard is something that they apply to everybody. He said the problem is they aren't married. So, I mean, yeah, true. That is true. The problem is that they aren't married. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, trusted source, complications during pregnancy or childbirth are the leading cause of death globally for girls ages 15 to 9. Again, let's do this again, okay? He's talking about morality. He's making normative statements throughout this entire thing. He's making normative statements. He's talking about morality. So you guys can say, well, actually, there's practical complications to it. Cool. Practical complications is obviously not what he's talking about. When he's talking about people having children out of wedlock, he's talking about a moral issue. He's not like, you can say like, well, this actually complicates social roles in society and the broader implications of blah, blah, blah. He's not talking about any of that. So I don't know why that would be like a response to him. That's a completely different topic. If you want to talk about that, that's perfectly fine, but that's not what he's talking about. It's obviously not what he's talking about. If you listen to everything that he says, you can pretty clearly get the picture that he's painting. Not in today's society, but back in the day at 16, they were more mature. Today's society is screwed up, so not the best. It's actually not true. More mature based on like they had life experiences to where they had to grow up faster. Yes. Physically mature, no. Our food today has hormones pumped into it to where a lot of us go through puberty at an earlier age and are more mature at faster age or at earlier ages. So, yeah.
Not think that horrific things were done to these folks? They were forced into these situations?
Does he not think horrific things were done to these folks? Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? What is he talking about? What does he mean he doesn't think horrific things were done to these folks? Where the hell did he get this from? This is just so far from anything Matt said. It is so obnoxious. What would nay a response for the morality of it? What would be a response to the morality of it? There wouldn't, well, so the response to the morality of it would be, I'm not a Christian, so I don't care if people have sex in or out of wedlock. That would be like, if you want to have a problem with something that he says, and you want to disagree with him, that would be your response. You don't care if people have sex in or out of wedlock, so that's it. That's like the biggest problem that anybody could have with anything that he's saying. Tom, these lefties are pointing out that teens marrying young is not a cool solution. Solution to what? Nobody's talking about solutions for anything. That's, again, oh my goodness. You guys got to get on the same topic as him if you want to criticize him, okay? You can't just make up things to be upset about when he didn't say that, okay? You can't just be like, well, actually, there's a bunch of stuff that you didn't say that has absolutely nothing to do with anything that you're talking about. Shame on you, Matt. Shame on you. I thought of a bunch of topics that have absolutely nothing to do with anything that you said. Haha, gotcha. Matt is saying what the problem is. Right. What is a problem? A problem can be anything, right? I stubbed my toe. This is a problem for me to walk. Or it can be like, you know, somebody's got a gun pointed at my head. This is a problem for me living. Maybe for that person, it is a moral problem. You can't just have, there's not like one kind of problem. You guys are acting like because he said problem, well, he said problem, so we can think of any kind of problem now and contradict him. It's not a contradiction if he's talking about a specific type of problem. If I say, I stubbed my toe and now this is a problem for me to walk, and you guys are like, well, actually, Tom, really, the problem is that your toe is swelling up and that now it's going to be in pain. Really, that's the real problem, Tom. And you didn't even think to say that now, did you? That's not what I was talking about. Why would I say that? That's not what I'm talking about. What? Why would I just why are you making up things to correct me on? That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. So why would you correct me on it? That's not what he's saying. You can just be like, well, he said the word problem. So now I can just find any old problem completely unrelated. As long as it's a problem, then I will feel justified in addressing him this way. That's not how words work, okay? This is not how conversations work. This is not how contradictions work. Like, you're not proving anything except for that you guys just don't understand how words work and how communication works. So yes, he's talking about a moral issue. That he doesn't think that teens should get pregnant out of wedlock. He doesn't believe anybody should get pregnant out of wedlock. So it's just not like he's saying, hey, teen pregnancy in and of itself is not a moral issue except for the fact that they are getting pregnant out of wedlock. That's what he's saying. If you disagree with that, that's fine. But your disagreement has to do with that. It's gotta address that, right? So that, what I just said, what he said, that has nothing to do with him wanting teens to get pregnant. He's talking about moral issues. You guys want to come up with a moral issue for why a 16-year-old girl is immoral. Tell me why that 16-year-old girl who gets pregnant, why is she immoral? What is the immoral thing that 16-year-old girl did who got pregnant? Anybody tell me, what did the 16-year-old girl do that is immoral? If she's pregnant, what is it? What is the immoral thing? What is the problematic thing that she did? They are responding to the idea that teens should get married. He didn't say teens should get married. He said teen pregnancy is not the problem, though. Correct? He did say that. And teens getting married is whack. He probably agrees with you on that. I would bet money he agrees with you on that. He doesn't, at no point did he actually advocate for teens to get pregnant. That just didn't happen. There's a bunch of stuff like that you guys are just making up in your heads that didn't actually happen. I want you to address what actually happened, the real thing that happened. Most teenagers nowadays are simply not mature enough to know how to properly raise a child. Again, these are practical things that you guys are talking about. We're talking about moral issues. Name a moral issue with a 16-year-old girl getting pregnant. Tell me why that 16-year-old girl is immoral. That's the only way you disagree with him. Okay? Either you guys have to disagree with what I'm saying and explain how that's not really what he's saying, or you need to explain how there's actually really immoral implications. There's these immoral implications on the 16-year-old girl for getting pregnant. You have to name those immoral implications on the 16-year-old girl for getting pregnant. If you don't disagree with Matt. Okay? The only thing that I would assume most of you disagree with him on is that you don't think that people need to be married to have kids. Like, you don't care if they get pregnant out of wedlock. That's what I would assume. Aren't you guys okay with saying mature enough to decide what they want to take hormones and puberty blockers? Well, and so that's kind of like most people's, like, that is the best criticism of anything that I've seen, is where people said, well, he seems to believe that 16-year-old girls are mature enough to make a decision on whether or not they could get married, but doesn't believe that 16-year-olds are mature enough to take puberty blockers or you know, get transition surgery or anything like that. That is a really good criticism. Yes, well done. That's a good criticism. Yeah. That would be that would be pretty hypocritical. So those two positions don't coincide. That's a good criticism of what Matt Walsh said. At no point did he say 16-year-olds should get married or that they should get pregnant. That never happened. So practicality has nothing to do with morality? No, of course not. Like, those are different issues. Whether or not I do something right or wrong is completely different as to whether or not it is a practical issue. Well, our laws are based on morality, so the age of consent is based on morality. That's not true. That's just not true. That is, I'm blown away that somebody in my chat would say that as many times as we've gone over this. Like, their laws are based on practicality. Laws are like, you know, if we're talking about, I don't know, Wall Street laws and SEC laws and stuff like that, are those moral issues on how you can place bids on stocks? Are those moral issues now? Is that how our laws work? Is it all about morality? No, it's about practicality, right? If we talk about like 16 kids have to go to school for a certain amount of time, is that a moral issue that they have to go to school for that amount? No, it's a practical issue. Is it you know, whether or not they age of consent, is this a moral law? No, it is a practical law. It has nothing to do with morality. We want kids to stay in school. We don't think that they should start families that earlier in their life. We don't believe that they even have the cognitive capability of making those decisions that early. And so it's best if we kind of draw a line to say, hey, don't screw up your life this early. Wait. You gotta wait. But that 16-year-old didn't do anything wrong if they have sex before that time. Now, if we see like a 40-year-old has sex with a 16-year-old, did the 16-year-old do something wrong? No, the 16-year-old did nothing wrong. There's practical issues here, though. But the 16-year-old did nothing wrong. The 40-year-old did something wrong. The 40-year-old did something wrong in this scenario, not the freaking 16-year-old. Media Matters is well known for lying. I remember when I watched Ben Shapiro, there were so many times they came out with hit pieces on him, and he proved that they were taking it out of context numerous times. And as much as I don't like Ben Shapiro these days, it's still obvious that they did those things. They still 100% cut him out of context to make it sound like he was saying things he wasn't saying. I can think of 3 different times, just off the top of my head, that they cut clips to make it look like he was saying something that he wasn't saying. Like one of the things was like, you know, I think it was the Just Move clip. There's just tons of them. Media Matters is like well known for clipping people out of context and coming out with hit pieces that are just untrue. So they got a bunch of clips of like Matt Walsh when he ran this shock jock radio program, and he even ran for mayor in this small town as like a meme, as a joke. He thought it was funny. So this one's 13 minutes. So just bear with me, okay? Is it gonna play?
Boyfriend, and he just sits around playing Grand Theft Auto on a big screen TV. It's like, I don't know why Davey won't help clean anything or fix the diapers.
The feedback on this is horrible. It's from a long time ago, but damn, dude.
To get a job, but it's hard.
You ever seen those girls? Ugh.
Lots of people are blaming those types of shows for this. And you see these stories every once in a while about some high school where 95% of the school is pregnant or whatever. Even the guys, it's getting really weird. So this is what I want to, and I'll try to not tread lightly. I'm not very good at treading lightly on things. But teen pregnancy is a new problem.
Yes.
In the sense that it's only recently that we decided that it is a problem. Okay. But it is not a new problem in the sense that it's a new phenomenon. It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. The peak, ever since they started keeping records of these things, which they only started doing recently, like in the 20th century, but ever since they started keeping records, in 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957. Not 2009,
Well, back
not
then,
today.
all of them were supposed to have kids. Like, that's when you
hold on.
had kids.
That's my point, okay? So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17,
Baby
to
boomers.
act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way. Even biologically, and this is me just stating, right now I'm going to start by just stating facts. So fact number one, it's not a new phenomenon. Fact number two, in fact, it's a phenomenon that was more common earlier in history, and for the first 6,000 to 10,000 years of human existence, it was a normal thing. Fact three, girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing. But what happened recently, and this is the fourth fact, recently in the last 30 years or so, we decided that that's way too young to start a family.
Why?
And because now
Divorce rates would probably go up, and once you're that young, you can't really make sure that
Well,
you know.
no,
that's the
girls are
person
no,
you
no,
wanna
no,
stay
no,
with.
no,
Because
because
girls were getting married early and marriages were lasting longer. You very rarely hear about like these relationships that go to their your diamond anniversary, your 50th anniversary, and all this. That's a dying breed of people out
yeah,
there.
and those were all people that got married very young. That's why
That's why they're still alive.
Yeah, that's why you could have someone in their 70s who's celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary because they got married when they were teenagers. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids because he's a coward. And the reason why we have that now are for two reasons. Because we have in current society, we live in the age of extended adolescence where people live at home until they're 26. They go to college, which is where most people regress maturity-wise and become even more ridiculous.
That's a good point.
So we tell people that essentially you're a kid who should not have adult responsibilities until you're about 27. And then maybe when you're in your 30s, you can start having kids. Even though biologically, when you start having kids in your 30s, that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when miscarriages skyrocket. That's when birth defects skyrocket. That biologically is too late to start having a family.
But I think the problem with teenage girls getting pregnant now is they have no real way of, sustaining the family. Let's say that the boyfriend stays in the picture. That kid's not going to be able to go out and get a job along with her to make enough money to raise the family.
That's why, but
especially at that age.
I don't want my words to be misinterpreted, as I know they will, because Matt's saying teenage girls should get pregnant. No. What I'm saying is that.
Oh, what? What? Did he just say he doesn't think teenage girls should get pregnant? I didn't even know he said this later on. I didn't even know he said this. He literally says it. He literally says it. Y'all suck. Y'all suck, dude. So, here he addressed it, I guess a couple days, like the same day, I guess. I don't know.
Known them to be. The left, they're not interested in investigating children's hospitals that literally castrate and butcher children. In fact, such investigations, I've been told, are an act of terrorism. But they will take the time to scour the internet for evidence that I made offensive remarks when I was 23 years old. That, in their minds, is far more relevant to the public. It's a matter of greater national urgency, they think. So with that in mind, let's talk now, if this is what they want to talk about.
This is always such a stupid way of talking, where like somebody points out an issue and you're like, oh wow, that's what you want to talk about? Oh, that's what you think is important? You don't know that kids are starving in Africa? And this is what you're talking about instead of the starving children? It's so dumb, dude. What is wrong with this guy?
For a few moments, about the deep, dark secrets of my past, the skeletons that have been hiding in my closet, waiting to be discovered by intrepid reporters at Media Matters. I will tell you the whole ghastly story, even the parts that Media Matters didn't include. I'll tell you
Matt is the one saying the solution is marriage, and that men stepping up would make it okay. That's silly. Again, yes, you got it. Thank you. You got it. This is what I've been saying, is that, like, if you want to have an issue with this, say, like, you don't think that people should have to get married in order to have kids. Like, there you go. Now you actually have, like, a real criticism of something that he's actually saying, not, like, you know, the fake version of what he's saying, but the real version of what he's saying. You got a real criticism of it now. Well done.
the whole story. So when I was 20 years old, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a small town in Delaware and started working at a rock station with a staggering audience that easily reached into the hundreds, I think. Those are my humble beginnings, or maybe the dark and sinister origins of the world's most notorious terrorist, depending on who you listen to. So I worked at the station until I was 25. For a couple of years during that period, I hosted a morning show where we often did flout the rules of political correctness, as was the custom on morning radio at the time. In their hit piece, Media Matters presents evidence that I used racially insensitive humor, that I told inappropriate jokes, that I engaged in lots of offensive activities. All of that, of course, is true. They also accused me of physically abusing our radio interns by tasing one of them.
Yeah, dude, they really, like, this is, they really, like, went on about the fact that, like, they tased each other. It's a bunch of, like, dudes acting like douchebags tasing each other. And they're acting like this is, like, horrible abuse.
Let's do it for real this time. We're back. And we are going to be stunning the intern with this 500,000 watts stun gun donated by Colleen. So thank you, Colleen.
Me and my friends tased each other. I've been tased a number of times, and I've tased other people. It's fun. You wait for them to, like, reach for something on the top shelf, and then as soon as they do, you go, wham! Woo! Give them a jolt of energy real quick.
That a man exposed his buttocks to me, but
don't go shirtless.
I'm gonna do it right here.
Okay,
Honestly,
go shirtless.
Here's a serious suggestion.
Yes, it does. Oh God, I'm tingly with anticipation.
1, 2, 3, go.
Ow!
Woo!
Did it shock you too?
Oh. Wait, I only got like half a second.
Such horrible abuse. Such horrible abuse here. It looks like the guy is consenting to this. It doesn't look like anybody made him do it. Now, are there power dynamics here where, like, you know, maybe Matt Walsh is the boss of the show and his interns kind of just have to do anything and everything he says? Yeah, but it's also like a boys club. It's like a frat house. They all act like a bunch of idiots all the time. It just doesn't seem, it's not that deep. But they have, like, a bunch of stuff about, like, him hazing them. And I'm pretty sure they shocked him as well, but Media Matters didn't show that, so.
As a joke. That's also true. And I submit, still funny. In fairness, I got tased too. In fact, I invented a game back in those days called Taser Trivia, where, as the name suggests, you are asked trivia questions, and if you get it wrong, you get tased. Media Matters didn't post that video, but they should have, because it's quite...
Attractive guys can't sexually harass women. It's literally impossible for an attractive guy to sexually harass somebody, which is why I've never been accused of sexual harassment, actually. I'm too good looking. Too many women find me attractive.
Easier.
Now, if I should be canceled for anything, it should be for being such a pansy in that video.
I mean, look, you can't really, like, get upset that he tased somebody when they tased him too. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's not that deep.
That was embarrassing, actually. Get it together. I mean, it does hurt to get tased, and for some reason we decided to add the blindfolds into it as well to just make it more, because you never know when the tase is coming. Our video that's making the rounds online shows me and my co-host burning a book over a charcoal grill. And we then dance around the flames and make... The story is that we had the burn his book and local campaign. Workplace violence, another segment from over a decade ago where we discussed the issue of teen pregnancy. And I pointed out that in the past, teen pregnancy wasn't considered a problem because people got married younger. I was attempting to highlight in an admittedly awkward and rambling way in my early 20s, riffing off the top of my head during a rock morning show to an audience of almost no one at the time, the fact that unwed pregnancy is a core problem that plagues our society, and it's still a problem even when the unwed pregnant person is an adult. So no matter the age, I argued at the time, pregnancies become a crisis when they happen outside of marriage without a stable family structure in place.
See, as he just said, it's a problem even when they're an adult if it happens out of wedlock.
To care for the child. This was, again, not an issue in earlier times because people got married young and stayed married. That's not the way our society is today, though, of course. At its core, it's a rather uncontroversial historical observation, but the left has latched onto this point from years ago and tried to use it to flip the groomer label around on me, accusing me of, quote, promoting teen pregnancy. And even...
Yeah, like, that's the whole thing, is that they're saying he is... every single one of them says he advocated for 16-year-olds to get pregnant. It didn't happen at all. Didn't even come close to advocating for 16-year-olds to get pregnant. Like, it just didn't, like, it didn't happen. They just made it up.
Child rape, as some of the libelous statements would have it. This is a defamatory lie. They know it's a lie, and it shows how desperate they are. They've chosen the most toxic smears available because smears are all they have. Now, in summary, my enemies have thrown every last thing they can at me, the whole kitchen sink and a few of the appliances to go along with it. I'm not the first person to get this treatment, obviously. I certainly won't be the last. Their objective is nothing less than the wholesale destruction of my life and my career.
Yeah, I see. If we put out a video on this, I got to make sure that I preface it with all of the things. So
that's what they're going for. That's the price they expect me to pay for opposing them effectively. They hope to force me to submit and apologize, at which point, of course, as it goes, they'll shoo me away with my tail between my legs, out of public view, out of the arena, off into obscurity. This is my punishment, the life sentence they expect me to serve for trying to stop them from abusing and butchering children. And it's not just me they're after. They want to send a message to everybody else. They want to send a message to you that if you stand up against them, this is what happens. They want to make me into another head on a spike, one of many. They put out on the edge of town a warning to anyone else who might think about disobeying their rules. So here's my official answer, for the record. Kiss my ass. I do not apologize. In fact, by all rights, you sick freaks should be the ones apologizing to me for lying and defaming me, and doing it all because I'm trying to prevent you from sexually mutilating children.
Nobody's sexually mutilating children. You're just a freaking liar too. Okay. So now that we got this, okay?
Guys, what is a woman? As a leftist, I apparently don't know. All I know is that according to Matt Walsh, a woman is somebody who's at least 16 years old.
It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. The peak, ever since they started keeping records of these things, which they only started doing recently, like in the 20th century, but ever since they started keeping records, in 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957. Not 2009,
well, back
not
then,
today.
All of them were supposed to have kids. Like, that's when you had kids.
That's my point, okay? So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way.
So basically what Matt Walsh is doing here is he's responding to, like, the conservative moral panic of, like, teens getting pregnant. And Matt Walsh is like, no, stop. It's good when teens get pregnant. That's like the whole discourse.
So, again, Matt never said that anywhere in here whatsoever. Not even close.
Where conservatives will push abstinence-only education, But Matt Walsh is like, no, you're denying your biological priors, okay? This is a good thing. When high school sophomore girls are pregnant,
Isn't it weird though? Isn't it somewhat of an issue when our laws don't align with our biological realities? And it's not a problem for it's not to say that those shouldn't exist. It's to say that we are constructing society and just building on top of things and building on top of things and building on top of things. And eventually we get to a point where this doesn't actually fit how we are, I almost said how we were made, but how we are built, or how we're how like we've evolved, I guess is the best way to say it. And so it can cause some problems. That doesn't mean that we should do away with like consent laws or anything like that. It just means that like there are complications because of things like that. Meaning that like, yeah, like a 16-year-olds are gonna have a lot of sex. It's just the way it is. You get laid a lot when you're freaking 16. Everybody wants to have sex when you're 16. So like it's a lot of fun. But it causes complications because if you actually get pregnant in our society today, you can have a lot of problems. If you got pregnant at the age of 16, this can cause a lot of other issues down the line that complicate your life. And so, yeah, it does seem that like our society is structured in a way that kind of goes against our biological reality.
And have to drop out of school to take care of their baby. That's actually desirable.
Bro, he explicitly said there's only an issue with unwed teen girls. That's an implicit endorsement of marriage. Teen girls getting okay. You got to rewind it. We literally just went over it. That's not what he did. Whatsoever. We just went over it word by word. He did not say that. He explicitly says, I am not advocating for 16-year-olds to get pregnant. What he's saying is the only moral issue for a 16-year-old girl who gets pregnant. If she gets pregnant, the only immoral thing that she did is get pregnant out of wedlock. If she got pregnant out of wedlock, we're talking about moral issues. We just played his explanation. We just played it. We just listened to it. We went over the original video. We went over the original video. Now we're going over other people going over the original video. He doesn't say the things that you guys think he said. He just doesn't say it. He just doesn't. You're listening to other people translate these things later on and being like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're telling me what he said. No, listen to what he actually said.
Even biologically, and this is me just stating, I'm just, right now I'm going to start by just stating facts.
Yeah, just stating
facts. So fact number one, it's not a new phenomenon. Fact number two, in fact, it's a phenomenon that was more common earlier in history, and for, the first 6,000 to 10,000 years of human existence, it was a normal thing.
That's not a good argument, by the way, or anything,
It's not an argument. He's stating facts. He literally just said that he's not making an argument, that he's just stating facts. It's not an argument. What is wrong with these people? What is wrong with their brains? Their brains are broken, dude. Their brains are literally broken. When he says, now I'm just stating facts, and seconds later you're like, well, that's not even a good argument. He's not making an argument. He just said he's just stating facts. He is making descriptive claims, not prescriptive. He is not prescribing anything. He is just stating facts.
We did lots of stuff 6,000 years ago. We did lots of wacky stuff. Not always a great argument. Yeah. This is the pedocon return to tradition bill right here, When we say return to tradition, we mean like walkable cities, and Matt Walsh is thinking of like fertile teenagers.
Fact three, girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing.
Stating
facts. But what happened...
It's not true, by the way. Like, even if you're doing the full-on, like, biological blah-de-blah, right? You'd want, like, at least, like, 22 or 23, right?
Women's peak productive years are between late teens and late 20s. So, okay.
Isn't that the ideal? It's like the like optimal range is like.
If you say it's a moral issue that teens get knocked up out of wedlock, the implicit argument is it's okay for them to get knocked up in wedlock. Yeah, morally. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes, that is true. Yes, you are correct. Yes, morally. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them getting knocked up. The 16-year-old girl who chooses to get married at 16 and get pregnant did not do anything morally wrong. Yes, you are correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There is not a moral issue there. There are practical issues there where it'll make that girl's life harder. It will probably make her husband's life harder. Yeah. Yes. Dude's talking about women like they're broodmares is weird. I don't know what a broodmare is, so I'm perfectly fine with people talking about women like they're broodmares because I don't know what it is.
It's like 21 to like 28 or something, like something in that ballpark, I think. I don't know why you'd pull the floor down there to 17. He'd totally say 13 if he could get away with it. Yeah, he's like, it's biological, you know, the ideal breeding age from, I don't know, 8 to, I don't know, 17, you know.
They're so bad faith, dude. They are so bad faith. Like, there's no interacting with people like this. There's no interacting with them. They are... and the fact that people in my own chat are doing this as well. You guys are trying to like stretch, like how far can I get away from what he actually said to accuse him of something? How like I want to stay right here, like right. If this is where he said something, I'm like right there on top of him. I am in there, right? But you guys are like, well, this is where he said something. Let me find a criticism somewhere. Where's the criticism? Oh, wait, there it is. I found a criticism. It's nowhere close to anything he said, but I can criticize him now. Haha.
Why does he say it like that? Well, the reason he's talking like this is because, like, he understands that he's kind of, like, crossing into the I'm now posting about my kink territory, and he knows that, and he's trying to, like...
If the 16-year-old has a note from her parents, I guess it's okay. Yeah, look, again, he's not recommending 16-year-old girls get pregnant. He's not saying that is a good practical thing to do. But you guys are all talking about practical issues with this. He's talking about moral issues with this. His issue was whether or not they get married, right? For Christians, it is immoral to get pregnant out of wedlock. It's immoral to even have sex out of wedlock, whether or not you get pregnant or not. So he's talking about moral issues. If you want to have an issue with what he said, I'll give you one. I already told you guys. I gave you guys the cheat codes to it earlier. The answer is you don't have to be married to have sex. Boom! Criticism done. Bam! Got him. Destroyed.
Like tread cautiously, but he's not socially aware enough. You know, it's like the pushing the envelope thing. It's like what your uncle does, right? When he's being racist, you know, he's like, well, I'm not racist, but you know, it's not always wrong to discriminate. You know, some folks are just different from. And he's like, well, I'm not racist. You know, it's like the apologetics are part of the, you know, sort of like nervous proposition of bad ideas. Yeah, Matt Walsh is a grass on the field kind of guy. True.
Recently, and this is the fourth fact. Recently, in the last 30 years or so, we decided that that's way too young to start a family.
Why?
And because...
Why? Why is 16 too young to start a family? I wonder. I can only...
I want to say, I think whoever his co-host is, I think that person might actually be trying to say the things that you guys think he might be saying. I actually, like, his co-host, this other freaking guy, he's saying some freaking shady stuff in that video. He's saying some weird stuff in that video. Like, he's getting, like, right there on the edge. Now, I don't know that he's saying those things because there's just not enough information there. But he sounds like he's like getting a little too close to the weird parts. He's his co-host he's out there.
Scientists are still pondering this. Keep in mind, guys, this guy is literally making his career off of protecting children right now. Remember that. This isn't just a random conservative. This guy right now is literally the front man for the left is grooming our children thing. He's the guy, you know, on this particular issue.
Now divorce rates would probably go up, and once you're that young, you can't really make sure that
Well,
you know.
No,
that's the
girls are
person
no,
who
no, no,
was
no,
there.
no,
Yeah,
no.
'cause girls were getting married early and marriages were lasting longer. You very rarely hear about like these.
Divorce was illegal for a long time.
These relationships that go to their what is it, your diamond anniversary, your 50th anniversary, and all this. That's a dying breed of people out
Yeah,
there.
and those all were all people that got married very young. That's why
That's why they're still alive.
Yeah, that's why you can have someone in their 70s who's celebrating their 55th wedding.
Yes, this is why they're being bad faith with him. And again, like I said, he's a pretty creepy dude. Like, he says some messed up stuff. He made the What is a Woman documentary. He talks about all trans people being groomers and, he doesn't think that even grown men and women can make a decision to transition. He literally believes grown men and women cannot make their own decisions on whether or not they can transition. So, like, yeah, he's a pretty messed up dude. It makes sense that people don't like him. He's a piece of crap. But at the same time, he's not saying the things that they're accusing him of.
Anniversary because they got married when they were teenagers. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy.
It's funny how the left becomes prudish when they can, if you can use it to dunk on a right winger, let's be prude as hell, for sure.
There it is.
Wait, there it is. Hold on. What?
What I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy.
There it is.
There it is. There it is, guys. He says right after, well, I'm not saying that 16-year-olds should get pregnant, but there it is. We got him out of context, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
That's Matt Walsh's issue. If you're going to impregnate teenagers, you have to marry them after. This is the moral crime he's looking to address. Phenomenal stuff here.
See, and Vaush even recognizes that he's talking about a moral crime. Like, Vaush even recognizes that he's talking about morality and is still this far off from an actual criticism.
I mean, I could obviously, like, we could talk about how, like, at 16 you're literally retarded and you have no idea if the person you're with you're going to love forever. We can talk about
how is thinking you can have babies outside of wedlock prudish? Who said that? Nobody said that. What are you talking about? Nobody said that. Literally nobody said anything like that.
Marriages used to last longer because women had no economic opportunities. But the thing is with Matt Walsh, that's what he wants, okay? Because a girl who drops out of high school at 16 to take care of a kid is a girl who will never be able to take care of herself financially.
So again, Vaush acknowledges that he's talking about morality, but immediately, in order to criticize him, switches to practicality. Oh, well, does he not know that a 16-year-old's gonna have some complications, when it comes time for her to get a job and she doesn't have a full education and hasn't gone to college and hasn't had time to build a career. Those are not moral issues. Nothing he's talking about is a moral issue.
Right? Like, that's the ideal wife for Matt Walsh, like, get her pregnant so young that she literally didn't finish getting an education, so now she's dependent.
Foe said lefties are being prudish, so just make something up. That he didn't say that's how they were being prudish. He didn't say that was how they were being prudish. You just added like a random thing in, like, well, how is saying that they can have sex out of wedlock? That's not what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about them saying that they can have sex out of wedlock being prudish, and I think that that's not what he was talking about. Nobody in their right mind would say, hey, having sex more is prudish. Nobody would ever say that. There's no way you think, hearing somebody say that something is prudish, that they're talking about having sex more. There's no way you think that.
On you until she dies, because she will never be able to get a job like that could like pay for independent living on her own, She's entirely dependent on you. That's the main reason divorce rates have gone up, of course. It's because
If you say 16-year-olds are old enough to take HRT, you should be all right with them getting pregnant, in my opinion. So again, this is a matter of whether or not we're talking about moral issues or practical issues, right? So is it immoral for a 16-year-old girl to choose to get pregnant? No. Are there practical issues for a 16-year-old girl who chooses to get pregnant? Yes. For a 16-year-old who wants to take HRT, are there moral issues for them if they choose to take HRT? No, there's no moral issue with that. Are there practical issues with that? Yes, there are some practical issues there. So like, this is a consistent stance, at least from me, is I'm saying you're not doing anything immoral at 16 if you're going to get pregnant. But there are practical issues. Say the same thing for HRT. You're not doing anything immoral by taking HRT at 16, but there are some practical issues. You should probably take those into account. That's it. That's the extent of it.
In large part, the reason why people, stuck to that for so long is because, women had essentially no way of getting out of it. It wasn't even a choice, really. Once you're locked in that, you're locked in that. And Matt,
the truth of this is just that the left has no real values. Again, like, I don't think it's that the left has no real values. I think it's that they run out of content, and so they have to just start making stuff up in order to have something to complain about. I think that they're, it's a slow news cycle right now, and they needed something. So, hey, Media Matters, to the rescue. Let's take a guy that everybody hates and just make up some stuff about him. Nobody's going to check it. Nobody's going to check and see if we're telling the truth. Why would they? Everybody hates him anyways. Nobody has any motivation to find out if we're lying, because they don't like the guy. Right? If somebody comes out about Epstein and they're like, yeah, Epstein actually raped my daughter, nobody's going to be like, you know what? I need to make sure that Epstein didn't actually rape his daughter. Justice for Epstein. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody cares. It's just another reason for us to bash on Epstein.
Matt Walsh is essentially saying, like, this is a desirable outcome. This isn't like a new thing. The Christian right in America has long basically held the position.
I love watching Quibbles catching up, and then he finally catches up, and he's like, "Ah, crap. Okay, Tom's right. Never mind."
That, like, the ideal woman is like a minor who's barely literate, who you can legally rape and beat whenever you want, and she'll produce like 12 children for you, and like that's her role in life. This is like that's essentially like what the TradCon I guess whirlpool kind of gets to, they're just rarely as straightforward with it as Matt's being here, so
Vaush took his earbuds out, so it seems like he's done listening.
I guess
he's putting them back in.
His honesty.
Okay, here we go.
That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids, because he's like,
when I had this argument on Twitter, everybody kept saying, well, he said problematic, Tom, so that means he's talking about morality. No, there's lots of things that can be problems, whether it's morality, whether it's problematic, as a practical issue. There's even other types of problems that aren't moral nor practical. There's all types of problems that we can conjure up that aren't moral. So to think that just because he says the problem means he's talking about practicality, it's just ridiculous.
a coward. And the reason why we have that now are for
why Matt Walsh asked through teary eyes, why do all the pregnant 16-year-old girls go out with the mean jocks rather than the nice guys like me who would marry them? Why do they always get pregnant to the assholes? I would take care of them. I'm 48. I have a car.
for two reasons. Because we have in current society, we live in the age of extended adolescence.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful. Hey, Vermin. Good to see you here. His Twitter header makes a lot more sense. Yeah, well, now we know why he cares so much, right? Like, he wants the gender clinics to stay away from the kids so that he can get to them,
Yeah, Vaush comes nowhere close nowhere close to actually having an issue with anything that Matt Walsh said, but let's see. Let's see if he listens to Matt address this stuff and correct himself.
Walsh, our main man over here, the most soy-looking of the conservatives. There was some leaked audio that came out about him talking about the fertility of 16-year-old girls, which is a classic conservative talking point. Don't know why everyone was freaking out over it, really. You know, no apparent hypocrisy between him doing this crusade against trans degeneracy to protect the children while wanting to impregnate them or whatever.
Again, the hypocrisy is one thing. You called him a pedophile, Vaush. You called him a freaking pedophile for that take. You didn't have an issue with the hypocrisy. You had an issue with him being a pedophile. Don't change it now.
But anyway, my man over here coming out, the hot video, beating the allegations. Let's go. He looks weird. He does look weird, yeah.
So now it's my turn, and I expected that something like this might happen. It had to happen. I've been successful in fighting against the left's agenda, especially the trans agenda, and especially recently. Those who support the sexual mutilation of children know full well that I am a threat to them because we're winning and they're losing, and they know that too. And they can't engage with our arguments. They can't oppose us on the battlefield of ideas.
So I want to say real quick, actually, as much as I went off just a minute ago about Matt Walsh being a piece of crap and all this other stuff, I don't blame people who hear the talk about trans people and gender and think it's all just a bunch of bullcrap that makes absolutely no sense. When people like Vaush and other trans advocates and other like heads of these trans advocacy programs, those are the people that you hear from who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. When we're talking about gender, when we're talking about trans people, you're not going to trans people to find out about how that works, right? If you want to understand cancer, you don't go find a cancer patient. You go find a doctor. If you want to understand cancer, you don't go to a cancer patient. That would be weird, right? Cancer patients are not going to understand all of the the body chemistry and the biology and the science and all that stuff. They're not going to understand all of it because that's not their field. It's the same thing for gender and in gender dysphoria. You need to go based on what it is that you're looking for, what your problem is, right? So if we're talking about gender, maybe you want to go find a linguistic philosopher probably is one of your best bets, or just a linguist in general. Or you can go find a biologist who can explain different parts that don't apply to gender. They can say, a biologist can tell you, yes, this is not gender, and this is not gender, and this is not gender. Even though people think it's gender, it's not gender. And that's why sex and gender are two different things. Like, you can find experts in these areas who can explain these things to you, but nobody listens to the experts on these things. Nobody listens to them. I listen to them. That's where I get my opinions from. But nobody else listens to them. They listen to trans people. Let's listen to trans people and find out what they think. Let's make sure we get a trans person's perspective on this so that we know what gender is. Everybody else, cis people have gender too. It's not like trans people are the only people who understand gender just because they transitioned. They don't have a better understanding of gender than other people either. I'm cis. I believe I have a much better understanding of gender than any trans person I have ever met. Okay? It's not because I'm just that much smarter than trans people. It's not because trans people are dumb. It's not because trans people are mentally ill. It has nothing to do with trans people at all. It has to do with the fact that this is just an area that I study a lot and that I've spent a lot of time looking into. And I just so happen to have the tools to understand it a little bit better and explain it to people. That's it. That's it. But for somebody like Matt Walsh, who's just sitting there on the sidelines listening, and they see the left is putting up these beacons. These are the people that you listen to about trans issues. These are the people that you listen to about gender. And it's some blue-haired, non-binary 16-year-old who's still in high school, And this is like, you know, oh, well, they're non-binary, so you need to listen to them on what gender is. This is what the left does. Of course, somebody like him is going to be insanely confused. Of course, they're gonna have issues engaging with these ideas. And I just don't blame them all that much anymore when I realize that everybody's freaking nuts. Nobody cares what the truth is, whether you're on the right or the left. That Matt Walsh isn't any more wrong than Vaush. Vaush is just as wrong. So, like, it's just not that crazy. I'm sorry. I alone comprehend gender, Tom. Well, that's good.
So instead, they look for another way. And now they're convinced they found their kill shot against me by using the same method they always use, which is digging up
Hey, Project Sadface. What's up, homie?
ancient history, doing the internet equivalent of rummaging through garbage cans to find things that were done and said years ago, which can be used to defame and, they hope, silence me today.
We're poisoning the well.
Here, you know what? Let's forget this. Where's we had a couple others that I wanted to.
All right, let's do this up.
See, it says right here, Matt Walsh thinks impregnating fertile 16-year-old girls is natural. What?
Matt Walsh stuff. So Media Matters basically found these old audio recordings from Matt Walsh's earlier career as a radio host, where he spoke about why he feels, and this is from 2011, that he talks about why he doesn't think people get outraged, why he doesn't understand why people get outraged, I should say, when a 16-year-old girl or 17-year-old girl becomes pregnant, because their fertility is already in place. They've had their periods and they're ready to bear children. The reason this is notable is because Matt Walsh has been one of the loudest voices in his and good job by the Surfs putting up this image of him on this audio clip. I believe it's the Surfs or Media Matters, I'm not exactly sure, in front of the banners of what.
But INL, the documentary, what is a woman? The experts sounded clueless and insane. He didn't actually go to experts. He didn't actually go to experts. He went to gender affirming care experts. Those people are not experts on what gender is. They are experts on how to affirm care to people who are trans. They are experts on gender dysphoria. They are not experts on gender, on the concept of gender, on what that word means, on what it is we're communicating when we say the word gender, or when we say what a woman is, or what it is that we're communicating when we say the word woman. He didn't go to experts on that. He didn't go to any experts on that. He didn't find them in Ethiopia. He didn't find them on the streets. He didn't find them in gender-affirming care units. He didn't find them because he didn't actually look for them. But the people that he talked to did sound just as crazy. But it's because people are not going to the experts.
Is a woman.
Yeah, this might be the Surfs themselves, but the audio itself comes from a Media Matters report from Ari Drennan and others. Very comprehensive.
Right, and the point is, though, that he's been constantly talking about how the left and LGBTQ people are groomers, and they're obsessed with the bodies and the genitalia of young kids, and they're butchers. And it seems, though, that Matt Walsh is the one who's fixated a bit on the bodies of children.
It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. The peak, ever since they started keeping records of these things, which they only started doing recently, like in the 20th century, but ever since they started keeping records, in 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957. Not 2009, not today.
All of them were supposed to have kids. Like, that's when you had kids.
That's my point, okay? So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way. Even biologically, and this is me just stating, right now I'm going to start by just stating facts. So fact number one, it's not a new phenomenon. Fact number two, in fact, it's a phenomenon that was more common earlier in history, and for 6 to 10,000 years of human existence, it was a normal thing. Fact three, girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile. Yeah. Okay? That's biological. That's a fact. All right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing. But what happened recently, and this is the fourth fact, recently in the last 30 years or so, we decided that's way too young to start a family.
Why?
And because now
divorce rates would probably go up, and once you're that young, you can't really make sure that you know.
No, all right, pause it. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's divorce rates. The reason that girls were getting impregnated at young ages throughout history was because girls and women were property. They were property for men. And when they get their periods and when they begin to become of an age where their bodies could biologically produce a child, they were immediately sold off as a part of, I don't know, some sort of deal between people, or it was a marriage that was arranged, or it was a convenience for different families to someone who deemed them an appropriate mate without their choice or their agency. And the reason that we don't do that anymore as a society is because they are children, and it's wrong. So Matt Walsh, I mean, man, maybe he should bring back the segment, and he can have some of our libertarian callers populate.
But wait. When is she gonna get to the part that has something to do with something Matt Walsh said? He didn't say they should get pregnant. He never said 16-year-olds should get pregnant. When is she gonna get to that part?
His comment section, because age of consent is one of their primary operating principles. But like, you know, it's just this is the guy who says the left is obsessed with children's genitalia.
I mean, ultimately, over time period, fertility decreases in humans, not just reality. But like, I'm seeing 18 to 24. What do you say, 17 to 20? It's just weird which numbers like they come up with.
No, he said 16 to 24.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Right. You are more likely to be able to have children earlier in pregnancy.
But continues to your 30s.
Yeah, right. And it's just about when you decide to make that decision for yourself. The reason that young girls were getting impregnated was because they didn't have a choice, because it was seen as their duty, and they were either raped or forced into sex in many instances.
Married off by their parents.
Right.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Because it was not their decision. It was either their parents' decision, and when it was time to have sex, it was oftentimes the man's decision. And that could come in very violent forms or sometimes consensual forms, but the reality is the genesis of that union was not the girl's decision.
Well, this is why they were able to get on board with Roy Moore, because the Roy Moore situation where like, and I can't remember the specifics, but like they rationalized as like, well, what if like this was okay with the parents or whatever like that? And it's like, yes, actually that did happen a lot, and it was bad.
Right.
That like a leading figure in a community, recently widowed or whatever, would say, oh yeah, your young daughter, that's mine now. She's going to come procreate for me and do my dishes, right? Like that's how it worked, and that was a less civilized time.
And that's also why modern conservatives are able to see the view that, you know, child sex trafficking and grooming of children to be LGBTQ is perverse and disgusting. But also, I support lowering the age where children can get married in red states. That's why there's no incongruence between those two kinds of thoughts. But keep going.
Way too young to start a family.
Why?
And because now
divorce rates would probably go up, and once you're that young, you can't really make sure that you know.
No, girls
Girls were getting married early, and marriages were lasting longer. You very rarely hear about like these relationships that go to their what is it, your diamond anniversary, your 50th anniversary, and all this. That's a dying breed of people out there.
Yeah, and those all were people that got married very young. That's why
they're still alive.
Yeah, that's why you can have someone in their 70s who's celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary because they got married when they were teenagers. So what I'm saying is that the problem.
You know what? Honestly, we should bring back marriage of children just because the esteemed institution of the diamond anniversary is a dying breed. And what is society if it does not have a widespread number of diamond anniversaries? I mean, honestly, we might as well be animals.
Yeah, I mean, we should go back. Like those people were married before like no-fault divorce, right? Like, I mean, we should go back to maybe we should just make divorce illegal or against the Bible or something. Like,
then diamond marriages for all.
Exactly. Like it's ridiculous. Yes, people were less empowered to get out of relationships that they didn't want to be. The idea
we should make marriage or a divorce illegal. They're not coming anywhere close to addressing anything he said.
That you would say, oh, no divorce equals definitely happy marriage. That would be news to anybody who studied the history of like marriage and divorce.
To go to their what is it, your diamond anniversary, your 50th anniversary, and all this. That's a dying breed of people out there.
Yeah, and those all were people that got married very young. That's why
they're still alive.
Yeah, that's why you can have someone in their 70s who's celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary because they got married when they were teenagers. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy; it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kid because he's a coward. And the reason why we have that now is for two reasons: because we have in current society we live in the age of extended adolescence.
Oh my God.
Yeah, where are the fathers? That's basically. So I guess now we have the context for that segment.
Extended adolescence is a good way to end that clip because I have another old Matt Walsh clip. This is from years ago. It was posted by let's see here, Bradley, if you have that. It's the one where he burned a book. Yeah. So this is a tweet put out by Ari Drennan, and just Matt Walsh with one of his friends in a Bill Press book about the right wing media here, and literally burning a book. And listen to some of the comments he makes about as he's burning this.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe he burned the book.
And think about what he said, suspended adolescence, as these two boys burned a book on a grill.
You just don't judge us for this.
How the Nazis do this?
You wait until we learn how to use fire. We're gonna burn our damn pictures off. Oh, there we go. Woo! There's you some toxic. just don't judge us.
So there you
I'm sorry. This is just way too far of a stretch for me to. They're trying way too hard to criticize this guy right now. But here we go.
Matt Walsh has a long history of defending the use of violence to accomplish political goals. How do I know that? Well, Media Matters just put out a pretty explosive report documenting some of his previous statements from a radio show that he used to be involved in. So he was working at WZBH, and seems like he wanted to kind of goad the Tea Party to think outside the box when it came to accomplishing some political goals of theirs. So he gave a speech at a Tea Party event some years ago. You're about to watch a snippet of it.
I hate Vaush more than anyone on the right. I like Vaush. I think that Vaush is like... My issue with Vaush is that I feel like he's more capable of giving good criticisms than almost anybody else, and he just doesn't do it. He just chooses not to engage, honestly, and that's my biggest frustration with Vaush. But I like Vaush. I think that he does really good content. He's really interesting. He's really good at engaging with arguments and separating them out. I like my favorite thing that I if I wanted to like praise Vaush more than anything, what I would do is show him moderating the conversation between Hans of Harkir and Joe Lewis. That was like a work of art, the way that he navigated that conversation and kept them like moving in the right direction. He like everything that I would have done plus more. He was on top of it the entire time. So he's actually really good at this stuff, and it just doesn't show. And it's a little frustrating. So yeah, like a person, Zola said, a person barely old enough to drive shouldn't be allowed to marry, let alone be pregnant. Marriage and motherhood requires far more thought and consideration than can be done by a 16-year-old. True. And if you asked Matt Walsh, hey, do you think 16-year-olds should get married at 16? He'd probably say no, right? Like he says earlier, he's not advocating for them to have sex. So it sounds like he's probably also not advocating for them to get married. Like that just seems to make sense. Like if he's saying you shouldn't have sex out of wedlock, but also, like the only problematic part of having sex as a 16-year-old is that you're having sex out of wedlock. Sounds like he's assuming 16-year-olds are not going to get married before they have children, so they just shouldn't have children, right?
Let's watch.
Our founding fathers had very specific goals in mind that they wanted to accomplish. It wasn't a generalized sense of outrage. It was, these are our goals we want to accomplish. And by the way, they were willing to back it up with guns and violent force. If you want extreme things to happen, you have to be willing to go to extremes. In the civil rights movement, they had specific goals. They boycotted. The people that were oppressing them, they made them hurt. They didn't just hold signs, they made them hurt. So I would say that it's time for extreme measures. I'm not advocating violence, but why are we limiting ourselves? Well, I'm just posing one possibility here. Let's say that next tax day, what if 10 million people didn't file their taxes? What if I don't know, like, well, you gotta file your taxes. Well, our founding fathers, everyone keeps bringing up our founding fathers. They were willing to pick up guns and kill people for what they wanted. A sign won't do it, and calling your congressman won't do it.
Okay, I mean, he mentioned that they picked up their guns. They had to get extreme. Mm-hmm. And then he puts in that little statement about like, what if 10 million people don't pay their taxes? Yeah. 10 million people will get a letter from the IRS with demands to pay their taxes, to file their tax returns, and if they don't, they will probably end up in prison for refusing to pay their taxes.
Oh my goodness, he's so horrible. I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he did that. I am so appalled. I'm so glad you brought my attention to this, Anna Kasparian. Thank you so much. You and Media Matters are doing God's work. Well done.
Taxes. That's what'll happen, even if it's 10 million people. So it's interesting, because you can make a point that he might be suggesting violence. Maybe he's suggesting violence. We didn't just say it. But he repeats certain things.
No, he literally said he's not suggesting violence. Like it's not maybe he's suggesting violence. He literally said, I'm not suggesting violence. Like those words came out of his mouth. Literally said, I am not advocating for violence. So this time, he actually makes the caveat in the clip. They actually show him making the caveat in the clip. He actually says it in the clip this time. They showed it and she still pretends like it didn't happen. There is no engaging with these people. There is no honesty from them. I will be honest with you guys, whether it's somebody I like or don't like. Being charitable is the most important characteristic that you need to be correct when engaging with other people. You cannot engage with other people and come to a correct analysis if you are not doing it charitably. And there's this idea on the left. They've made this up. They just made this thing up. If the other person is engaging in bad faith, the only way for us to interact with them is in bad faith. They have made this idea up that they have to be bad faith. It's okay. It's okay. It's not me, guys. I'm not. I know. But it's not my fault. They engaged in bad faith first. They started the lying. I just have to lie to engage with them. It's not my fault. It's okay. They did it first. This is like a thing that you hear all the time on the left. It's like, yeah, we're it's not our fault we're bad faith. But now, even when the person that they're engaging with isn't being bad faith, they'll just use it anyways. Oh, well, he's bad faith, so why not? Right? People make stuff up about Destiny all the time. You say, what the hell? Where did this come from? It doesn't matter. He's bad faith anyways. Well, no, it does matter. Because now you're bad faith anyways. So now anybody who engages with you is now supposed to be bad faith. But then now they're bad faith. So now anybody who engages with them is now gotta be bad faith as well. And it's just like a never-ending cycle. Why? Just kill everybody now. Like, if that's the world that we have to live in, where all of us just have to lie all the time in order to engage with each other, just get it over with. China, hurry it up. We're ready. This is it. This was it. We got to as good as it could get, and then we all decided that we can just lie to each other. And that's it. It's over with. There's no point in us having a civilization or continuing on if the norms that we have built up to make a civilization actually possible, like things like you shouldn't lie, that's like a fundamental building block of society, is that, like, in order for us to hear what the other person says, we first have to decide that we're going to believe what the other person says. If I've already decided before I ever heard them that they're lying, there's no point in listening to them in the first place. And then there's no point in listening to anybody. It's over with, guys. This is it. It's done. Society is done. We reached our peak. We jumped the shark. Radical Democrat. Then why does Matt keep saying 16 and 17-year-olds, those caveats are just plausible deniability? Because he's talking about 16 and 17-year-olds. That's what the conversation was about. That's what they were talking about on the show, on the radio show. They're talking about 16-year-olds on the show. So that's what he's engaging with. And so he says they've been getting married, they've been having sex for a long time. People think, and this was a thing that was said a lot back then. This is a thing from the early 2000s. It's a clip from the early 2000s, where it was like a thing that you heard all the time. 16-year-olds are getting pregnant all over the place. It's at record highs now. What are we going to do? It's a big problem. And he's saying, actually, we're not even near the peak. Actually, we're not even close. 16-year-olds have always gotten pregnant. If you go all the way back to what did he say? 1850, you'll see the highest rate of 16-year-olds ever getting pregnant. We're not even close to hitting the peak. And he says, I'm just stating facts. I'm just making descriptive claims of what is true, meaning that means that he's not making a prescription. That means he's not advocating for anything. He's just stating facts, right? So he goes on to explain that this is when they're at their most fertile. This is biologically when, our bodies are made to have children the easiest. These things are true. So it's just like, that's what the conversation was about. That's what they were talking about. And he says that, like, people who complain about 16-year-olds getting pregnant, I don't think they're doing anything immoral unless they're doing it out of wedlock. That's the only immoral thing that they're actually doing. That's what he's saying. He's saying 16-year-olds are not doing anything immoral by having sex unless they're doing it out of wedlock. And I agree with that. I don't think that, well, no, I don't agree with that. I think 16-year-olds can have sex whether they're in or out of wedlock. I don't care one way or the other. As far as morality goes, now as far as a practicality sense, I don't think you should get pregnant before like 25, actually. I think that 25 is probably the best time for you to start deciding what you want to do for the rest of your life and whether or not you want to have a kid that you got to deal with for the next 18 years plus 9 months. Like, this is that, I would say, 25 if we're talking about a practicality sense. But if we're talking about a morality sense, I don't freaking care when you have sex. Go ahead. Who cares? So like, it's just, there's no winning with these people. There's no winning. I feel like there's one more, but I don't know. I don't know where it is. I didn't save that one. So.
All right, so let's just do one more creepy guy with his past remarks. I think people are aware that Matt Walsh was basically saying that, like, what his argument was that women are...
Why does he care about teen pregnancy? He doesn't. That's what he was saying. He doesn't care about teen pregnancy. That was the whole point. He doesn't care about teen pregnancy. Also, children aged 10 to 19 have complications with pregnancies. Matt advocates for teen pregnancy. He does not advocate for teen pregnancy. Yes, you're telling me to read between the lines. I'm telling you, you are reading. He literally says, I'm not advocating for teen pregnancy. Those words literally come out of his mouth. So what's the point? What is the point in him advocating for something that he's going to say he's not advocating for? So all the listeners listening to this, who is he convincing? If I keep telling you guys, my name's spelled T-O-M. But my name's not Tom. It's not Tom. Never call me Tom. My name's Alfred. Always call me Alfred. People are just going to call me Alfred because that's the caveat that I made. They don't care what my name's spelt like or what I'm saying before that. The caveat erases everything before that. So once I say that's not my name's actually Alfred, that's what people are going to believe. That's what they're going to hear, and that's what they're going to carry on with. So who is he? What's the point then? Who is he convincing of anything? What is the point in him saying all of this other stuff that you think is communicating something completely different? What is the point in that if he's not actually convincing anybody of it? You're saying read between the lines. The only people who are getting that message from him are people like you guys who are going to make it up, who are going to say, hey, let's find something in there that we can misconstrue and take out of context. Well, when I go show you all of the context later, when I show everybody who listened to you, when I show them the context that you chose to leave out to convince them of what's between the lines, you look like a liar now. You are the one who nobody believes. Nobody's going to have a problem with Matt Walsh afterwards. They're going to be like, oh, okay, this guy's actually maybe not as bad as everybody makes him out to be, because now I'm finding out that a lot of the people that I listen to about Matt Walsh are lying about him. Well, no, Matt Walsh is still a bad person. You guys make him look more credible when you start lying about him. There's no value in this whatsoever. A woman's best productive years are in her 20s. He's not advocating for it, but he's still trying to say it should be good as long as she's married. The ethical implications of that are the problem here. Okay, then Zola, again, I'm going to ask you again. What is the 16-year-old doing that is immoral? Tell me. The 16-year-old doing, the 16-year-old girl who gets pregnant, she has sex and gets pregnant. This isn't the Virgin Mary we're talking about, okay? She is having sex and getting pregnant. Now it's on you. Tell me what she did that was immoral. Go. Your turn. Let's hear it. Just like a gaslighter, Alfred, their butler, what was the lie? The lie is that he didn't actually advocate for them to have sex. He literally says, I'm not advocating for 16-year-olds to have sex, but everybody cut that part out. We went and listened to it earlier. So I understand that you're just getting here. If you go and rewind back and listen to everything that we've covered so far, I already like justified what it is he's saying. I already showed everybody the full context of the clip. So everybody here listening now knows he was not advocating for 16-year-olds to get pregnant. Yet, when we go and click on all of these videos and their titles are Matt Walsh advocates for 16-year-old girls to have sex, they all know that he's lying now because they all heard the full clips. They all heard all of the context that everybody else is cutting out of it. Matt called himself a fascist. Matt is a horrible freaking person. We're not talking about whether or not he's a horrible person right now. We're talking about whether or not he said this thing that everybody's accusing him of. So yes, if he's a fascist, he didn't say he's just a fascist. He says that he's a civic fascist or something like that. I don't remember, but it's a different type of fascism. He's a theocratic fascist. And he said this, I remember when he said it in a very, like, I guess, sort of way. Where it's like if I say, well, I'm kind of like a centrist, kind of like, a little bit on the right, a little bit on the left. And people are like, no, Tom, you're a leftist progressive. Stop lying. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm a leftist progressive then. I don't know. Whatever. Like, that's kind of the way he said, I'm a theocratic fascist. What's up, Tantuy Tin Man? I don't agree with the premise. It's not a moral issue. Okay, wait, what do you mean? You're saying that you don't agree that he is talking about morality. Is that what you're saying? Stop using weasel words. Radical Democrat, please jump into my Discord real quick. I'd be happy to have this conversation with you. If you actually believe the things that you're saying, please come on and explain it to me and you can wreck me. Because honestly, I'm not going to feel wrecked. If you explain this in a way that I like that shows that I'm wrong, I will be happy to agree with you. I am happy to say, you know what, you're right. And we don't have to have like a hardcore debate or anything like that. I want to hear your perspective on how I'm using weasel words. That's what I want to hear. Okay. Because I feel like you're using weasel words and you're lying. You're not just using weasel words. You're using weasel words and lying to do so. There should be a link in my description. If you click on that, you can join my Discord, join any VC. Theocrat fascist who doesn't have moral issue with unwed teen pregnancy. No, he does have a moral issue with unwed teen pregnancy. He literally said, the only moral issue with this is if they are not wed. That is his issue, is that he doesn't believe they should be having sex out of wedlock. That's the whole thing that he was saying. That's all of it. His whole issue is that he doesn't think that they should be having sex out of wedlock. That's his whole issue. And he doesn't think that 16-year-olds should get married. So he doesn't think that 16-year-olds should get pregnant. Like, it all runs in together, but if you just take that one part out of yeah, you're gonna say no. I know you're gonna say no because you're a liar. You are a piece of crap. You are scum of the earth. Okay, you are why people hate the left. This is why people like Matt Walsh make those documentaries, because people like you are pieces of crap. And you come in here saying, stop using weasel words. Name a freaking weasel word that I've used. You're just a liar. You have no moral bones in your body. This is the issue. Tom, who in God's creation is calling you a theocratic fascist? They're not calling me a theocratic fascist. They're calling Matt Walsh a theocratic fascist. Tom, where does he say he doesn't think they should get married? He says that he doesn't think that they should be having babies. He literally says, I don't think that they should be having babies. He literally said that. Do you think that he thinks they should get married and then just be chaste? They should they should keep their chastity belt on and just stay married? Do you think that's what he thinks? Play the clip. Okay.
Biologically, it's too late to start having a family.
But I think the problem with teenage girls getting pregnant now is they have no real way of, sustaining the family. Let's say that the boyfriend stays in the picture. That kid's not going to be able to go out and get a job along with her to make enough money to raise the family.
That's why, but I don't want my words to be misinterpreted, as I know they will, because Matt's saying teenage girls should get pregnant. No. What I'm saying is that unwed teenage girls should not get pregnant.
Right.
What?
So like an unwed 23-year-old girl probably shouldn't get pregnant either, because she's probably not in a position.
It's crazy. It's like I'm a mind reader when I hear somebody say words and I interpret them to mean what the words mean. Oh my goodness. I'm a freaking wizard, Harry. This is amazing. Wed teenage girls can get pregnant. I didn't believe it the first 3 times, yeah. Well, we know what he really meant, Tom. Yeah. This is freaking gold, guys. Okay? We are about to hit gold. Alfred is not a fascist, but he will defend one. Yes, I will defend one. I care about the truth, one way or the other. I don't care who I'm defending. And this is what we talked about at the beginning, radical Democrat, okay? The problem is that the left will go after people for an issue as long as the person that they're going after is bad. And that's all that matters, right? It's not the issue that matters. It's the person that matters. I care about the issue, right? So if somebody says, hey, this guy raped somebody, and I say, oh my goodness, that's horrible. Let's hear about the rape. They're like, no, you don't even know yet. It was Ben Shapiro who did it. I'm like, oh, that sucks, dude. Tell me about the rape. They're like, well, no, the rape doesn't matter. Ben Shapiro is a fascist. Like, oh wow, that's crazy. Tell me about the rape though. How did he rape her? Why do you care about the rape? Why are you asking me about the rape? He's a fascist. It's like, okay, are we condemning him for being a fascist, or are we condemning him for raping somebody? If we know he's a fascist and we're condemning him for being a fascist, then cool, dude, I'm on board. Let's go. I'm gonna get him with you. Let's get him. Let's go. I'm right here next to you. I'm ready to do this thing. But if we're condemning him for a rape, but there's no rape, it's like, why are you defending Ben Shapiro, Tom? Why are you defending him? It's like, I'm not defending. I don't know what's happening right now. And this is me engaging with the left constantly. They're like, Tom, he's bad, so we get to make up whatever we want. It's like, not me. You guys go ahead, do that. Go make up whatever you want. I'm going to make fun of you guys in the meantime. So go ahead. I'll make fun of Ben Shapiro and you guys. I'm going to make fun of all y'all. You guys are all immoral. You're all bad. If you think just lying about somebody is okay because you've decided they're bad, well, maybe I decided they're bad too, but I'm not going to lie about them. When you lie about them, you're bad too. You're just the same as them. Congratulations. You all suck now. I don't. I am awesome. Uru, stop encouraging him for being wrong. I'm not being wrong. Zola, Discord or ban, let's go.